Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wind here for the Winter Major Tournament and the Nordic Fjords here in Golf Clash the game. Make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. For those of you that do want to have an even better chance on scoring well in the Winter Major, make sure to go to patreon.com/golfclashtom and get any of our Ultimate Tournament Guide package. We do have for Pro, Expert and Master, and you can bundle it in whatever way you like. Link to our guides is directly in the description down below. Follow the info box on the right hand side to get the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there is always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. For hole number 1, you will see me play with the big topper. It's not often that we do that in Pro or Expert, but the reason for the big topper here is due to its amazing topspin. So using all the topspin that we can, combined with some right spin, aiming with the red ring by the rough line. Adjustment max +10, we push up to max if that's if we're not in max distance. Full curl to the right and some overpower. You may be wondering if you can play with different clubs here, and yes, you obviously can. You can play with an Apocalypse, and you can even play with a Thor's Hammer. However, using curl here is going to be something that is not crucial, but it's going to be very important, especially in the angle that we have when we can't go directly over the water. Let's say that we do have more of a tailwind angle, then we can go directly over the water by using a berserker ball, try to bounce that ball directly up to green and see if we can't even get an hole in one. That is a possibility because there is some funnels up to the right of the green, but just wanted to explain the different type of alternatives we do have on the drive. Second shot, if we do come short, or let's say like this, if we're not on green, it's going to be a wedge. Measure your club distance, and what I would recommend to play here is to play EB School. Even though I'm using 3 side spin here and 1 top spin, it's still going to be a fairly easy shot here due to its more or less straight wind. But again, the EB School version is definitely the better one to do. So measure your club distance and you play 25% elevation and then obviously slider depending on how what your club distance are, because we can't play this one just 20% because it's slightly downhill. That's why 25% is elevation to use here on hole number 1. The approach, bounces, rolls, and you know, nice one to start with an eagle. So for hole number 2, this is going to be one of the best chances we do have in this tournament, together with the short par 4, obviously. So here I'm starting a complete minimum distance with a power 5 ball. Doesn't matter which one it is, I just want to find minimum distance to simplify the landing spot that we are going to use. Then I switch to a navigator, as that's the only thing that I'm looking for. I want to have wind around 6.5 to 8 miles per hour approximately. Spins are added, adjustment is medium distance +10, power 3 ball settings, which for those that know a little bit more about the numbers knows that it's 1 to 1, so 6.4 rings for 6.4 miles per hour. Ball gets down the green and it rolls lovely down towards the pin. This method here, by playing from power 5 ball minimum distance, is definitely something you can do in any wind if you're keeping the navigator as a ball. Obviously, there will be times where we might play slightly different, a slightly different landing position, but regardless, if you just get the ball down to green in approximately the same place, the ball will always be close, and that's why this par 3 is definitely the easiest of the Nordic Fjords here for the Winter Major Tournament. For hole number 3, this is going to be a tough hole regardless of what wind direction you're having. I do recommend that if you do have some sort of a tailwind, that we do try to get directly over to the second island on the right, using 2 right spin and not using any top spin or back spin whatsoever. We do want to obviously stay on that island and not roll down into the rough or into the snow or whatever we would like to call it. Max plus 10, and then we are going to push out to max, this to prevent us from having to use overpower. We could obviously stick to the position we had there and use a slow needle overpower, but I think it is easier to push up and then just go with a regular shot. Bounces on the fairway and it sits nicely at the top of this island, and even though it looks risky, this is a risk that you're going to have to take if you're going to be having any sort of chance for an albatross with this type of wind angle. If you do have a headwind or you do have a crosswind, you can't do this drive, then you're going to have to bounce on the first island over to the second island by using curl. That you can do with Apocalypse or with the rock or something like that. If you don't want to take any risk whatsoever and are only looking to get an eagle on this par 5 with no chances of an albatross, then you can play over to the very left and play straight up there and just go for a safe transport to the green for an eagle. Now, second shot, when we're getting over to this island, we do have an open play here to attack for an albatross. I would recommend to play true club distance at 30% elevation. This is a very elevated hole, especially as well when we do play over water, which also has an extra effect of the flight towards the fairway. So aiming left side of the pin just to counteract the push that we're going to have, and also making sure that with my adjustment I'm not going to adjust down into the bunker. That's why I'm using the 2 left spin. So a couple of things just to think about there. Perfect ball, and you will notice that we are right on target, but we are unfortunately staying short in line. Even though this is an open shot for an albatross, I do not believe that this is gonna drop that much, because it is a tough one to get correct. There is many variables with this shot that can make you just burn the edges or just stay short, as I'm doing here in the video. But I'm always like that, and especially in a major, that we always should try to play a little bit more aggressive on the drive to make sure that we do at least have a chance, because having to lay up on the very left just to transport to the green for an eagle is not really giving you that little extra edge over your opponent. Hole number 4, one of the tougher holes to drop in my opinion. 4 backspin, 2 right spin, and that's the reason why I'm playing with a Titan here. You don't really need a power 3, but the side spin 2 helps you to be correct with the 2 bars of side spin. But obviously another wind 2 ball would be sufficient as well if you just have side spin 2 or even side spin 3. Ball guideline to go in between the dark and the bright green square row with the second bounce on the fringe. Medium distance with a 20% over adjustment is what we're going to do, and we're always pulling over bullseye. Center the ball, hit perfect, and this will bring you a good chance. What needs to be said here is that those of you that do have the possibility to play with any sort of backspin boost, it's only enough to play with a backspin boost 1 ball here, then you can go directly at green and catch the back end of the green to roll down towards the pin. So if you can do that, and if you can spend a special ball to do so, then you will have an advantage over everyone else that do play this hole, because that will increase the chances of dropping this shot massively. I wanted to have that said, even though I don't have any videos of that being displayed, but due to the experience of playing in Master, which that shot is the main shot to play, that's why I know it's gonna be a good one from second tee too. Hole number 5 is probably one of my least favorite par 5s in the whole game, and the reason for that is the way the second shot is, and I'm gonna talk you through that, because it's not really a tough par 5, especially not to get the eagle at, but to get an albatross, it's never an albatross attempt that you can count as a good one. Adjustment max plus 10, and you can see that I'm using a little bit of top spin to combine with 2 bars of left spin. The idea here is to go to bounce on the fairway and then bounce over the bunker and to stay before it rolls into the rough. There is a lot of room there, so the I would say the closer to the rough you are, the better it's going to be. Bounce S on the fairway, as you can see, and it sits there nicely. I'm using curl to help myself to prevent to be pushed too much to the right, especially when we can't really play straightforward, and we're going to have to play super close to the rough line, and I don't really want to do that. Tighten is enough here on this drive, and also second shot, obviously. Second shot, you can see where I do have a straight crosswind. I'm trying to favor the right side of the fairway because I believe that side is a little bit more consistent than what it is going a little bit more left. Please make sure to move around to not be in any of the glitch spots. There is a couple of them playing here. So we are playing 10% elevation, true club distance. So if we are in max distance, we play max distance, and obviously if you are in medium distance, we play in medium distance, and so forth. So 2 left spin and some top spin here to get the ball to the hole. Crosswind is, in my opinion, the easiest thing to have on the second shot because it's not really giving you any compressed or extended ball guideline. So it's easy to judge the distance, which is what I believe is the toughest thing here to do, because all of the glitch spots there on that fairway, and also then getting up to green, makes speed being very difficult to control, which many of the times isn't really acting in a logic way. And I do dislike those shots that don't really act in a logic way, and I think that's the reason why I don't really dislike it, why I don't really like this hole at all. Hole number 5 though, it is an easy chance for an albatross, but I don't believe this is going to be a drop that we're gonna get every time. For hole number 6, I will give you 2 options here. One where we do have crosswind and headwind, and one which we should use in tailwind, because the 2 different plays, it's placed so massively different. And that's why I wanted to do that. So here I'm having a hard time to decide what type of way I'm gonna play here with this type of angle, but deciding to play with my Apocalypse to try to get this ball as far down the fairway possible, and that is what is recommended. I can even see here playing us with a big topper to use even more topspin to try to get even further down the fairway there to the top. Max plus 10 is what should be used here, even though we fall down into the water and are not in max distance. You can also notice that I'm using some overpower, and the reason I'm using the overpower is to compensate for dropping down to a lower elevation, because the game works in that way that if you adjust from a higher to a lower point, you're going to lose distance. So in that case, you're going to have to compensate with either push-up or with overpower. But as I was running out of time, I choose to go with overpower, otherwise I would probably have to time out. Second shot, I play with a not wood club, long iron that gives me the best ball guideline possible here. And the reason the ball guideline is important is because I do want to aim for the hole. Trying to find a firm spot on this fairway is difficult, and that's why I wanted to that's why I talked about to try to get the ball as far down the fairway possible with our drive, because the further down we are on that fairway, then we can play around this area here, which is a difficult one to get any type of consistency at. Now I'm decided to play into that little bowl type of hole, and we play 20% elevation, true distance, center the ball, and hitting perfect. And I would say that this drop is fairly lucky, and obviously that's a drop I take all day and every day. I'm not complaining about the drop in itself, but I know for the next time it's going to be very difficult for me to replicate that. That's why I try to get the drive a little bit further down, and then to play around that with using the side spin for a much better and flat area for our first bounce with a long iron. And I base that on the experience of playing this hole, especially from 30, that playing further down brings you a better spot, and that in that way you can bring better consistency and therefore get more drops. For the second option on hole number 6, we are going to go for green, or not maybe green, but go for an aggressive shot to get as close to the green possible. The reason I'm saying not the green is because we do have that big bunker and all that rough that we don't really want to flirt with. So it's better to play on the left side where we do have loads of room. Stretch out the max to visualize where the first bounce is going to be. We want it to be center on that fairway. Max plus 10 and then push up to max. And then we're going to use overpower with this shot. You can see I'm using max overpower, already have the side spin here to the right, already have some topspin applied. And the trick here is obviously judge the topspin correct so you don't go too short or too long. But again, you do have a lot of room here for this ball to roll and also to stay nicely, as you can see here by the green. And from here, it's a very simple eagle. And that's why I wanted to show you two options here, because if we do have a tailwind, we're going to have to go for it. And I would say then the eagle is going to be an absolute must, regardless if you play in tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3, in pro or expert. You're going to have to get this eagle, otherwise you're going to lose a shot to your opponents. But if it is a headwind or a crosswind, then it's a layup, and then the eagle is going to be much more rare. Hole number 7 is not going to be much easier than hole number 2, but I believe this hole is just a smidge easier. So especially if we do have some headwind, then we can play from absolute minimum distance, pack the grizzly to find min line in a much easier way, and set it up with the power 2 ball called Katana. 3 right spin and some backspin, a medium distance with a 15% over adjustment, power 2 ball settings. Hit perfect and ball bounce on the fairway over towards the fringe. Very important that the ball bounces on the fringe, otherwise that ball would kick more right because of that little slope. But if it bounces on the fringe, we will have the direction towards the pin and a good chance of dropping and hole in one. Hole number 8, and here we're gonna go for a green, regardless of what wind direction we are having. If we do have a tailwind, we're gonna push to go directly over the water with our first bounce and try to actually land it on green. And I would say that this is actually a good chance for an hole in one. Obviously, we'll need some tweaks based on the shot here, but looking back at this hole since previous tournaments, this has definitely been a situation where players have been getting hole-in-ones in the tournament. So I'm having the bullseye by the rough line, adjustment max plus at 10, and then we push up to max, and I'm using 3 rings of overpower in this type of wind. Obviously playing with a ball with power 4 or even power 5 will minimize the need of overpower on this shot, and obviously the less overpower you have, the easier it will be for you to get this ball to green or even then attack the pin for an hole in one. So a little bit of left curl or a little bit more left spin or something like that, then it would definitely been closer. 1.5 bar backspin was perfect there, and again hole number 8 offers a very good chance for an hole in one. One thing to have said though is that if you do have a crosswind or you have a headwind, you can't do the first bounce over the water, but then you need to back up and play with a club that gives you minimum 6 bars of topspin to do a double bounce over the water and then over the bunker to roll up towards the pin. That maybe sounds very technical, but it is actually a fairly easy shot because you do have a lot of room for error. So again, hole number 8, no matter what, we are going for green. Hole number 9 is a super boring par 5, doesn't matter what type of wind we're going to have, this is going to be mainly an eagle. Start at with the ball guideline going straight down the fairway, as much topspin as you possible can use, max plus 5 adjustment, and with this angle I'm always going max overpower. Even if you do hit a great left or a great right, there are so much room on this fairway because yeah, you can see how much room there is on this fairway, and that's something we need to take into our advantage. So playing it safe by laying up shorter is just going to complicate the second shot. Sure, if you hit a very bad great or a good shot, then you might go into the rough, but If we do that, then we're gonna just have to blame ourselves. Second shot, I do welcome to play with a Cataclysm here, or even a Big Dog, to make sure that we do have the distance enough. I can, in this case, but in this case only, to look into maybe playing with a Sniper instead, because we do have Tailwind, and it would be better to play with a better ball guideline to not have to guess that much on how this ball is going to act. No matter what though, there is so many glitched spots from this fairway that we're bouncing up towards the green that bringing any sort of consistency is going to be very difficult to get. So max plus 10, and you can see here now how this ball comes in very flat and weird bounce, not as it shown or not as I wanted to, and we came fairly close, and in the end it becomes an easy eagle. Hole number 9, if you do get an albatross here, you should consider that to be a massive bonus. Obviously playing with a better ball, or in terms of power, or even with wind resistance, it's definitely going to help you on the second shot to try to dial that one in. But once again, getting an eagle here is nothing bad, because most of your opponents will not get that albatross. Thank you everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wins for the Winter Major Tournament here in Golf Clash the game. And make sure to get the ultimate tournament guides for Pro and Expert. You can obviously also get for Master on patreon.com/golfclashtommy. Link to our guides is directly in the description down below. Thank you once again for watching, and good luck in your Golf Clash game.